Here's a fact that quietly rearranges how you picture the solar system. You cannot land on Jupiter. Not because it's too far, or too cold, or too dangerous, though it is all three. Because there is nothing to land on. No rock, no ocean floor, not 1 square meter of solid ground anywhere on a planet that could swallow 1,300 Earths. So what actually happens if you fall in? The honest answer is that you'd take the strangest journey a human body could make, down through a sky that never ends, into an ocean with no surface, toward a core that may not even have an edge. Let's take the fall. Some numbers first, because Jupiter's scale is the whole story. NASA's fact sheet puts it at 11 times Earth's width, with 2.5 times the mass of every other planet in the solar system combined. It has no surface because it isn't that kind of object. It's a ball of hydrogen and helium, roughly 90% hydrogen, the same recipe as the Sun. And it defends itself. Jupiter's magnetic field, the strongest of any planet, whips trapped particles up to enormous energies, and the European Space Agency rates the resulting radiation belts among the most hostile environments in the solar system. Falling past the orbit of Europa unshielded, you'd absorb a lethal dose within hours. You would arrive at the cloud tops already a ghost. So let's cheat just once. For the rest of this fall, you get an indestructible suit. Physics gets everything else. The entry is violent beyond anything in human experience. Jupiter's gravity guarantees you hit the top of the atmosphere at about 60 kilometers per second, more than 5 times faster than any crewed spacecraft has ever flown. Only one machine has made this trip. In December 1995, NASA's Galileo probe came in at 47.8 kilometers per second, still the fastest atmospheric entry in history. The shock layer ahead of it reached around 15,500 degrees Celsius, nearly 3 times hotter than the surface of the Sun, and over half of its heat shield burned away in about 2 minutes. Deceleration peaked at 228 times Earth's gravity. A trained fighter pilot blacks out at 9. Once you've slowed, though, the fall turns strangely quiet. You drift down through ammonia cloud tops at around -145 degrees Celsius into the stacked deck that gives Jupiter its face. Ammonia ice on top, ammonium hydrosulfide beneath it, water clouds underneath, all those creams and browns and rusty reds drawn into bands that stream past each other at hundreds of kilometers per hour. Fall on the wrong line of latitude and you'll drop into the Great Red Spot, a storm still wider than the whole Earth, with winds above 430 kilometers per hour. Astronomers have watched it spinning continuously since 1831. And in 2021, the Juno spacecraft measured its roots, plunging about 500 kilometers below the clouds, roughly 50 times deeper than Earth's oceans. Deeper down, the sunlight starts to die, and the weather turns alien. Juno has caught lightning flickering at altitudes too cold for ordinary rain, fed by slushy ammonia and water hailstones that its scientists call mushballs. Then comes the eeriest moment of the whole descent. Somewhere below the water clouds, you pass through a level where the temperature matches a mild afternoon on Earth. Warm air, tolerable pressure, and nothing else. No light, no oxygen, no ground below, a shirt-sleeve layer with nowhere to stand, wrapped around the entire planet. The Galileo probe died a little further down. 58 minutes into its descent, At about 22 times Earth's sea level pressure, its electronics cooked near 150 degrees Celsius, and it fell silent. Everything below that point, no machine has ever seen. Past that depth, the fall stops behaving like anything on Earth because you keep waiting to splash into something, and you never do. The pressure climbs into the thousands of atmospheres, and the hydrogen around you thickens into something that is not quite gas and not quite liquid. There's no boundary to cross, no surface to strike, no moment of arrival at a sea. The sky itself gradually becomes an ocean while you're inside it. By now the world is pitch black and hotter than any oven, and in every sense that matters, you're no longer falling through Jupiter's atmosphere. You're sinking through Jupiter. About a third of the way to the center, the pressure passes 2 million Earth atmospheres, and the temperature climbs toward 10,000 degrees Celsius, hotter than the sun's surface. Squeezed that hard, hydrogen does something we've barely reproduced in a laboratory. Its electrons shake loose, and the entire ocean becomes a liquid metal. This layer is Jupiter's engine room. Electric currents circulating in that metal sea generate the planet's colossal magnetic field, the same field that would have finished you back at Europa. And somewhere in that white-hot ocean, the fall truly ends. There's no impact. The fluid around what's left of you simply grows as dense as you are, sinking stops, and your atoms drift apart into a planet-sized sea of glowing metal. Could anything continue to the center? Even there, Jupiter refuses to offer a floor. Textbooks used to draw a neat rocky ball at the heart of the planet, maybe 10 Earth masses of it. Then Juno flew close enough to weigh Jupiter's insides through tiny tugs on its own orbit, and the gravity data pointed somewhere stranger. A dilute, fuzzy core, heavy elements smeared through much of the inner planet like sugar dissolved in tea, with no clean edge where it begins. The center of Jupiter may be nothing but a gradual thickening, tens of thousands of degrees hot, compressed by tens of millions of atmospheres. Rock that isn't rock, in a place that isn't really a place. Now pull all the way back out to the cold and the dark, and look at what you just fell into. Jupiter hasn't finished its birth, in a sense. It still radiates roughly 70% more heat than it receives from the sun, leftover warmth from its formation, and by current estimates, it shrinks about 2 centimeters a year as it slowly cools. It's built from the sun's own ingredients, and had it grown roughly 80 times more massive, it would have ignited as a star. It didn't. It became something else, a world with no surface, no floor, and no inside door, a planet that can only ever absorb whatever falls into it. You wouldn't crash on Jupiter. You'd be dissolved into it, one more trace of heavy elements stirred into the tea. And the great storm at the top would keep spinning as if nothing had happened at all.